And that's why he's the one we're proud of, my dad said, raising his wine glass toward my younger brother across the mahogany table. The crystal caught the light from the chandelier, throwing sparkles across the white tablecloth. My brother smiled that practiced smile he'd perfected over years of stealing my thunder. Then Dad turned to me. His expression shifted, hardened. And you? Honestly, Mia? You're the family's biggest disappointment. The words hung in the air like poison gas. My Aunt Patricia covered her mouth, but I saw the smirk underneath. Uncle Tom looked at his plate. My brother Kyle didn't even try to hide his satisfaction. Mom's fork froze halfway to her mouth, but she didn't speak. Nobody spoke for me. My ears started ringing. The room tilted slightly. I felt my face burning, my throat closing. I gripped my napkin under the table so hard my knuckles turned white. Then my phone buzzed in my pocket. I almost ignored it. But something made me pull it out. Unknown number. Is this Mia Lawson? A woman's voice asked. Yes. I managed. This is Governor Whitaker's office. He'd like to speak with you personally about the State Award for Youth Tech Impact. Every head at that table turned toward me. My father's face went from smug to stone in half a second. If you're watching this video, please like, subscribe to the channel, and tell me in the comments where you're watching my revenge story from. I want to know how far it has traveled. My name is Mia Lawson, and I'm 22 years old. That moment at Sunday dinner wasn't luck or coincidence or perfect timing. It was years of silent work, buried pain, and calculated patience finally colliding in one perfect second. The truth is, the story didn't start that night. It started when I was 14 and learned that my achievements only mattered when they made someone else look good. It started with a father who mocked every dream I shared. It started with a brother who learned he could steal from me without consequences. It started with a family that rewarded betrayal over hard work and silence over truth. For 8 years, I lived in Kyle's shadow. Every award I earned was downplayed. Every project I completed was criticized. Every time I succeeded, Dad found a way to make it about Kyle instead. I stopped trying to impress them around 16. I stopped talking at dinner around 17. By 18, I'd learned that invisibility was safer than hope. But I never stopped working. I just stopped sharing. I documented everything. I planned in silence. I waited for the right moment. And when it came, I let the spotlight show exactly who they all were. I was always the quiet kid. The one who brought home straight A's while Kyle failed algebra and still got taken out for celebration dinners. She just memorizes things, Dad would say, waving away my report card. Kyle's got real talent. He thinks differently. Mom would nod along, always agreeing with whatever Dad said. Kyle learned early that effort was optional. I learned that effort was never enough. When I won the regional science fair in 8th grade, Dad spent the car ride home talking about Kyle's upcoming basketball tryouts. When I got accepted into the advanced coding program at school, Dad bought Kyle a new laptop because he needed it more. The message was clear. I wasn't worth the investment. By high school, I'd stopped expecting praise. I worked because I loved it, not because anyone noticed. I spent lunch periods in the computer lab instead of the cafeteria. I taught myself Python, then JavaScript, then Swift. My teachers noticed. Mr. Harrison, my computer science teacher, told me I had something special. But at home, I was just the girl who spent too much time on her laptop. You need to be more social, Mom would say. Like Kyle. Kyle, who partied every weekend and barely passed his classes. But he smiled more, so clearly he was winning. When I was 16, I built something I thought might change everything. It was an app prototype designed to help students with ADHD manage their assignments and focus better. I'd spent 6 months on it, coding late into the night, testing it with friends, refining every feature. It was my school project for the state technology competition. I was proud of it. For the first time in years, I thought maybe Dad would finally see me. I made one mistake. I told Kyle about it. I showed him the prototype on my laptop one evening. He seemed interested, asked questions about how it worked, nodded along as I explained the features. "This is actually pretty cool," he said. I should have known better. I should have remembered every other time I'd trusted him. A week later, Kyle submitted my app to a national high school innovation competition. With his name on it. He changed some colors, tweaked the logo I designed, and claimed it was his semester project. When the competition announced the finalists, his name was listed. Not mine. He acted surprised, said he forgot he'd entered. My parents believed him. When he won third place and a $1,000 prize, he cried. Actually cried. My mother hugged him. Dad posted about it on Facebook. I sat at dinner watching them celebrate. Nobody asked if I was okay. I confronted Kyle the next day in his room. "You stole my work," I said, my voice shaking. He looked up from his phone and laughed. Actually laughed. "Stole? Mia, come on. You really think you could have done that presentation on your own? I made it better. You changed the colors and put your name on it. I polished it," he said, standing up. "I made it competition ready. You should be thanking me." I went to Dad. Showed him my original files, the timestamps, the documentation. He barely looked at them. "Don't be petty, Mia," he said, not even glancing up from his newspaper. "Kyle worked hard on that presentation. You should be proud that your idea helped him succeed. That's what family does." "He stole it," I repeated. "He lied." "He improved on your concept," Dad corrected. "Stop being jealous of your brother's success. It's not attractive." Mom nodded from the kitchen. "Your father's right. You're making this into something it isn't." That night, I stopped speaking at the dinner table. For the next 3 years, I answered when directly asked questions but volunteered nothing. I learned that in my family, truth didn't matter. Perception did. And Kyle's perception was always more valuable than my reality. I kept coding. I kept working. But I stopped sharing anything with them. Junior year of high school changed everything. Kyle and I shared a laptop sometimes, the old family desktop in the living room. One evening, I opened his email by accident. We had similar passwords back then, something I'd stupidly told him years before. The subject line caught my eye. Opportunity to buy out ADHD Focus app, $35,000 offer. I clicked it. The email was from a small educational software company. They'd seen Kyle's competition entry and wanted to purchase the rights. They were offering $35,000 for full ownership. Kyle hadn't told anyone yet. The email was 3 days old. He'd already replied saying he was interested and would send paperwork soon. I sat there staring at the screen, my hands shaking. He was going to sell my work. Again. He was going to take $35,000 for something I'd created, and my parents would probably throw him another party. I took screenshots. Every email. Every document. Every piece of correspondence. I saved them to a cloud drive I'd created just for situations like this. Then I closed the laptop and walked upstairs to my room. I didn't confront him. I didn't tell my parents. I'd learned that lesson already. Instead, I started planning. That night, I packed everything that mattered into 2 suitcases. And 3 days later, I left without saying goodbye. I moved out on a Tuesday morning while everyone was at work or school. I was 18 by then, graduated early, legally an adult. I took my clothes, my laptop, my documents, and the shoebox of money I'd saved from tutoring jobs. I left a note on the kitchen counter that said, "I'm fine. I need space." I didn't answer when Mom called 37 times that first day. I didn't respond when Kyle texted calling me a drama queen and saying I was embarrassing the family. Dad sent one text. "This is immature." That was it. Nobody asked why I left. Nobody apologized or tried to understand. They only complained about the scene I'd made, the questions neighbors were asking, the awkwardness at church. My friend's mom, Mrs. Peterson, let me crash on their couch. She'd known my family for years and had her own opinions about how they treated me. "You stay as long as you need," she said. For 6 months, I lived in her basement. I got a job at a coffee shop, enrolled in community college online, and spent every free hour coding. I rebuilt my app from scratch. Better interface. Stronger features. More secure. This time, I filed for a provisional patent. I encrypted everything. I told no one what I was working on. My family didn't notice my absence after the first week. Life went on without me just fine. Living in Mrs. Peterson's basement wasn't glamorous, but it was mine. I worked morning shifts at the coffee shop, attended online classes in the afternoon, and coded from evening until 2 or 3 in the morning. My new app was better than the original. I'd added gamification features, progress tracking, and customizable focus timers. I called it Focus Forward. By spring, I had a working prototype. By summer, I had a beta version with real users. I found my first testers through Reddit and ADHD support forums. They loved it. The feedback was incredible. People told me it changed their lives, helped them manage school and work, made them feel less alone. I refined the app based on their suggestions. I added features they requested. I created a private community where users could support each other. I did all of this with no funding, no family support, and no business background. Just determination and late nights and the burning need to prove I was more than the disappointment my father claimed I was. My family never asked what I was doing. Kyle posted regularly on social media about his college life, his fraternity, his internships that Dad's connections secured. Mom commented heart emojis on every post. Dad shared them with proud captions. I watched from a distance, no longer part of their story. And honestly, I was okay with that. Everything changed on a random Tuesday in October. I posted about Focus Forward in a small online community for neurodiversity advocates. I didn't expect much. Just wanted to share something I'd built with people who might understand its purpose. 3 days later, I got an email from someone named Dr. Brenda Walsh. She was the executive director of a national neurodiversity nonprofit. She'd found my post, downloaded the app, and wanted to talk. We met at a coffee shop downtown. She was in her 50s, kind eyes, asked good questions. "This is exactly what our community needs," she said, scrolling through the app on her phone. "Have you considered partnering with an organization for distribution?" Within a month, everything moved fast. Contract signed. Small grant awarded. Pilot program launched with 3 universities. Suddenly, local news wanted to interview me about young entrepreneurs and neurodiversity advocacy. A tech blog wrote an article. My app had 5,000 users by December. 10,000 by January. I was a founder. A CEO. Someone who mattered. But I kept it quiet from my family. I wasn't ready for them to know. I wasn't ready for Kyle to find a way to take credit or for Dad to suddenly be proud of something he'd once called a waste of time. I changed my last name on all public documents to my mom's maiden name, Hartley. As far as anyone knew, Mia Hartley built Focus Forward. Mia Lawson didn't exist in that world. Kyle found me anyway. 6 months after I'd gone silent, he sent a text. "Hey sis, how's life? Saw someone with an app that looked a lot like the one we worked on together. Wanna catch up?" I stared at that text for 10 minutes. The one we worked on together. He actually wrote that. Like he'd contributed anything beyond theft and lies. I didn't respond. A week later, he posted on LinkedIn. I saw it because a former classmate sent me a screenshot, concerned. Proud to have inspired the early designs behind Focus Forward, an app helping students with ADHD succeed. Sometimes the best ideas start at home. People I'd never met were commenting congratulations. Former teachers were liking it. Kyle was building a narrative where he'd been involved from the start, a supportive older brother who'd helped his sister launch her dreams. I felt sick reading it. My hands shook holding my phone. This was happening again. He was stealing credit again. But this time, I had proof. This time, I had lawyers. This time, I had documentation going back 4 years. I took a screenshot of his post and added it to my growing file. Then I called the lawyer who'd helped me with my patent paperwork. "We need to talk about intellectual property fraud," I said. She listened to my story and asked one question. "Do you want to handle this quietly or publicly?" I didn't hesitate. Publicly. The situation escalated when Kyle contacted my investor. Dr. Walsh forwarded me an email. Kyle had introduced himself as my brother and co-founder, said he'd stepped back due to family complications, but wanted to be involved again. He suggested a meeting to discuss, properly crediting the collaborative origins of the project. Dr. Walsh's email to me was brief. "Is this accurate? Should I include him in our next funding round discussion?" I called her immediately. "No. He's lying. I'll send you documentation." That evening, I sent her everything. Screenshots of the original competition theft. The emails about the $35,000 sale attempt. Timestamped files proving I'd coded everything myself. His LinkedIn post taking credit. His recent email claiming co-founder status. "This is fraud," Dr. Walsh said when she called me back. "This is beyond family drama. This is him attempting to steal equity in your company." "I know. Do you want to pursue legal action?" I thought about my family. Mom's disappointment. Dad's anger. The cousins who'd whisper at gatherings. Then I thought about every time I'd stayed silent. Every time I'd let them minimize my work. Every dinner I'd sat through without defending myself. "Yes," I said. "I want to pursue everything." Within a week, my lawyer sent Kyle a cease and desist letter. He called me 17 times that day. I didn't answer. He sent texts ranging from angry to apologetic to threatening. I forwarded them all to my lawyer. My lawyer's name was Victoria Ross, and she was magnificent. Sharp, mid-40s, had built her career defending women in tech disputes. "Your documentation is excellent," she told me during our second meeting. "You've essentially built the case yourself. Timestamps, original code, witness statements from your high school teacher, everything. What happens now?" I asked. "We send a formal notice. We demand he remove all false claims about involvement in Focus Forward. We make it clear that any future attempts to claim credit or profit will result in legal action. And if he persists, we file a fraud complaint. Will it work?" Victoria smiled. "Mia, you have him dead to rights. He committed intellectual property theft as a minor, then attempted to commit fraud as an adult. Yes, it will work." The cease and desist arrived at my parents' house on a Thursday. Kyle called from Dad's phone that evening. I let it go to voicemail. "Mia, what the hell? You're suing your own brother? Over what, some app? This is insane. You're tearing this family apart. Call Dad back. We need to talk like adults." I listened to the voicemail 3 times. Then I saved it. Because even now, even caught in multiple lies, he was making himself the victim. I was the problem. Not his theft. Not his lies. Me, for finally standing up. The next morning, Victoria filed a formal complaint with the State Business Ethics Board. Kyle had claimed co-founder status to potential investors. That was fraud. And fraud had consequences. Mom showed up at my apartment 2 weeks later. Mrs. Peterson had finally given her my address. I should have known she would. Mia, please, Mom said when I opened the door. She looked tired, older than I remembered. Can we talk? I let her in. She sat on my small couch, looked around my tiny apartment. You've been living like this? I've been living independently, I corrected. Kyle is devastated, she said. He says you're making up stories, that you're jealous of his success. Did you read the documentation my lawyer sent? I skimmed it. So you saw the timestamps? The original files? The emails about him selling my work? Mom twisted her hands in her lap. Family is complicated, Mia. Sometimes memories differ. Maybe you both contributed and just remember it differently. I felt something crack inside my chest. Mom, I have literal proof. Time-stamped code. Emails. Competition submissions. He stole my work, took credit, tried to sell it, and when I built something new, he tried to steal that too. You always exaggerate, she said quietly. That's when I realized. She didn't want the truth. She wanted peace. She wanted me to be quiet, to let it go, to stop making waves. She wanted the family image intact, even if that image was built on lies. I think you should leave, I said. She looked hurt. Don't do this. Don't tear the family apart over pride. I'm not the one who tore it apart. She left. She didn't ask about my business, my life, my apartment. She came to defend Kyle and left disappointed I wouldn't comply. 3 months passed. My lawyer sent additional notices. Kyle removed his LinkedIn post but told people I was unstable and having a breakdown. I focused on work. Focus Forward grew to 25,000 users. Dr. Walsh introduced me to venture capital contacts. We started planning expansion. Then the invitation came. Email from Dad, subject line, family dinner. Your mother and I think it's time we all sit down as adults. Sunday dinner, 6 p.m. Kyle will be there. We need to resolve this as a family. I almost deleted it. But something made me accept. Maybe I wanted closure. Maybe I wanted them to acknowledge the truth. Or maybe I just wanted to see their faces when they realized I'd moved on without them. Come, I replied. I'll be there. That week, I worked with Victoria on final documentation. Everything organized. Everything clear. I also got a haircut, bought a new dress, and practiced keeping my face neutral. Sunday arrived. I drove to my parents' house for the first time in over a year. The driveway was full. Not just Mom and Dad and Kyle. Aunt Patricia. Uncle Tom. My grandmother. My dad's brother. This wasn't a family dinner. This was an intervention. I sat in my car for 5 minutes, breathing slowly. Then I walked inside. They were all seated already. Waiting. I took the empty chair at the end of the table, the chair I'd occupied as a child. Dad cleared his throat. We're glad you came. The table was set with the fancy china, the kind Mom only used for holidays. Candles flickered in silver holders. Someone had made roast chicken, my childhood favorite. It felt staged, performative. Uncle Tom smiled at me nervously. Grandmother looked confused about why we were all gathered. Kyle sat directly across from me, his expression carefully neutral. Dad poured wine for everyone except me. He'd always said I was too young, even now at 22. The conversation started with small talk. Weather. Sports. Aunt Patricia's new kitchen renovation. Nobody mentioned the elephant in the room until dessert arrived. Then Dad stood up, glass in hand. I want to make a toast, he said. Everyone looked up. To family. To Kyle, who despite facing false accusations and family drama, has maintained his integrity and grace. My stomach dropped. This wasn't a reconciliation dinner. This was a loyalty test. Kyle has a bright future ahead, Dad continued. He's got job offers from 3 companies. He's making us proud. And I want him to know we support him completely. Glasses clinked. Everyone drank except me. Dad turned his gaze to me. His expression shifted, hardened. And Mia? He paused. Honestly? You become the family's biggest disappointment. The room went silent. Aunt Patricia tried to hide her smirk. Kyle didn't even try. He looked satisfied, vindicated. Grandmother looked confused. Mom stared at her plate. My ears rang. My vision tunneled. Then my phone rang in my purse. I pulled out my phone with shaking hands. Unknown number. I almost declined, but something stopped me. Hello? My voice sounded steadier than I felt. Is this Mia Lawson? A woman's voice asked. Professional, formal. Yes? Please hold for Governor Whitaker. The table had gone completely silent. Everyone was staring at me. Then a male voice came on the line. Ms. Lawson, this is Governor Whitaker. I apologize for calling during your evening, but I wanted to personally invite you to next week's State Technology Innovation Ceremony. We're presenting you with the Youth Tech Impact Award for your work with Focus Forward. I couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. The awards ceremony will be televised, he continued. We'd love for you to speak about your work supporting neurodivergent students. Does next Thursday evening work for your schedule? Yes, I managed. Yes, that works. Excellent. My office will email the details. Congratulations, Ms. Lawson. Your work is making a real difference. He hung up. I lowered the phone slowly. Every single person at that table was staring at me. Dad's wine glass slipped from his hand and shattered on the floor. Red wine spread across the white tablecloth like blood. Nobody moved. Kyle's face had gone from smug to confused to pale. Mom's mouth was open. Aunt Patricia looked like she'd been slapped. The governor? Uncle Tom said finally. The actual governor called you? I stood up, my legs somehow steady. I need to go. Wait, Dad said, but I was already walking toward the door. I made it to my car before my hands started shaking. I sat in the driver's seat, gripping the steering wheel, trying to process what had just happened. My phone buzzed. Text from Kyle. Congrats, sis. That's amazing. I mean, we should talk about how we both contributed to that app though, right? For the ceremony? I stared at that text for a long moment. Then I called Victoria. He just texted me, I said. Trying to claim credit again. Right after the governor called. Forward it to me, she said. And Mia? Congratulations. I saw the news announcement online. This is huge. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about Dad's face when the phone rang. The way his expression shifted from contempt to shock. The broken wine glass. The silence. Around 2 in the morning, I made a decision. I opened my laptop and found the email from 4 years ago. The one where Kyle had planned to sell my work for $35,000. I'd kept everything. Every piece of evidence. Every lie. Every theft. There was a journalist I'd read recently, someone who covered tech industry ethics and startup fraud. Her name was Angela Martinez. She'd written an article about intellectual property theft in family businesses. I sent her an email. Subject line, story pitch. How my brother stole my app and what happened when I fought back. I attached the screenshots, the timeline, the documentation. Then I went to bed. The next morning, Angela Martinez replied. This is explosive. Can we talk? 2 days later, we met for coffee. I told her everything. Angela Martinez was a senior tech reporter for a major online publication. She'd been covering startup culture for 15 years. "This story is bigger than you realize," she said, her notebook filling with notes. "It's about intellectual property theft, family dynamics, gender in tech, neurodiversity advocacy. This has layers. I just want the truth out there," I said. Before the award ceremony. Before Kyle tries to show up and claim credit somehow. "Can I contact your brother for comment?" "Yes." "Contact him. Contact my father. I want them on record." We spent 3 hours going through everything. She recorded our conversation, took photos of my documentation, verified facts with Dr. Walsh and my former high school teacher. "When can you publish?" I asked. "I'll have a draft by Friday. We'll run it Monday morning, before your Thursday ceremony." That Friday, she sent me the article draft. The headline read, "Rising Tech Star Exposes Family's Years of Intellectual Property Theft." It was thorough. Fair. Devastating. Screenshots of Kyle's competition entry with my code. The email about selling my work. His LinkedIn post claiming credit. His recent text trying to insert himself into my award. Angela had contacted Kyle. His quote was predictable. "This is a family misunderstanding. My sister is talented, but she's misremembering our collaborative work together. I support her success." Dad had refused to comment. Mom said, "This is a private family matter." The article was scheduled to publish Monday at 6 in the morning. I approved it Sunday night. Then I turned off my phone and tried to sleep. Monday morning, my phone exploded. Text messages, missed calls, voicemails. I lay in bed watching notifications flood my lock screen. The article had gone viral. Within hours, it was trending on multiple platforms. People were sharing it with furious comments about Kyle, about family dynamics, about women in tech getting credit stolen. Someone had found Kyle's old LinkedIn post through Internet Archives and was sharing screenshots. His college had tagged him in a congratulations post about my award. Someone commented with the article link. The post was deleted within an hour. I finally turned my phone back on around noon. 17 missed calls from Dad. 9 from Mom. 23 from Kyle. 5 from relatives I hadn't heard from in years. 1 from Dr. Walsh. "Mia, I saw the article. Are you okay? Call me when you're ready." I called her back. "I'm okay," I said. "Better than okay, actually." The board met this morning. "We're releasing a statement supporting you and clarifying that Kyle has never been involved with Focus Forward in any capacity. Thank you. Also," she paused, "we're tripling our investment offer. This story is bringing massive attention to neurodiversity advocacy and your work." The app downloads increased 200% overnight. I hadn't expected that. Hadn't even thought about the business implications. "Your silence protected you," Dr. Walsh continued. "But your voice just changed the conversation. People needed to hear this story." That evening, Kyle's social media accounts went dark. All of them. LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. Deleted or deactivated. The narrative he'd built crumbled under the weight of documented truth. The next few days were chaos. Media outlets contacted me for interviews. Podcasts wanted me as a guest. Other young women in tech reached out sharing similar stories about family members stealing their work. Kyle's college revoked an innovation award they'd given him sophomore year. The award had been based partially on his high school competition win, the one where he'd used my app. When the competition organizers learned the truth, they requested their prize money back. The company that had offered Kyle a job after graduation rescinded the offer. His would-be employer released a brief statement. "We take intellectual property ethics seriously. We cannot employ someone with documented fraud in their professional history." Mom called from a different number, one I didn't have blocked. I answered. Are you happy now? She asked. No, hello. No, how are you? You've destroyed your brother's life. I documented what he did, I said. He destroyed his own credibility. You didn't have to make it public. You didn't have to humiliate him. He humiliated himself. I just stopped protecting him from consequences. Family doesn't do this to each other, she said. Her voice broke. You're right, I agreed. Family shouldn't steal from each other either. But Kyle did. Repeatedly. And you all defended him every single time. Silence. Then, your father wants you to know you're not welcome at family events anymore. Okay. That's it? Just okay? Mom, I stopped being welcome at family events the day I became inconvenient to the story you wanted to tell. I'm just making it official. She hung up. I sat there holding my phone, feeling nothing and everything at once. Relief. Grief. Freedom. The awards ceremony was Thursday evening at the state capitol building. I wore a red suit I'd bought specifically for the occasion. Professional, powerful, unapologetic. Mrs. Peterson came with me. She'd been following everything online. I'm so proud of you, she said in the car. Not just for the award. For standing up. The Capitol building was stunning. Marble floors, high ceilings, state flags. A woman from the governor's office met me at the entrance. Ms. Lawson, we're thrilled you're here. The governor is excited to meet you. She led me to a reception room. Other award recipients were there. Scientists, teachers, community organizers. People doing real work, making real differences. The governor arrived 30 minutes before the ceremony. He was taller than he looked on TV, warm handshake, genuine smile. Ms. Lawson, your story has been inspiring people all week. Not just your app, but your courage. Thank you, Governor. I read the article, he continued. What you've built despite those obstacles is remarkable. That's the kind of resilience we need to celebrate. The ceremony began at 7. Hundreds of people in the audience. Cameras everywhere. One by one, recipients were called up. Scientists for cancer research. Teachers transforming underfunded schools. A firefighter who'd saved 3 lives. Then my name. Mia Lawson, founder of Focus Forward, for her innovative work supporting neurodivergent students through technology. I walked across that stage, legs steady, head high. The governor shook my hand and gave me a crystal award. Then the microphone was mine. I stood at that podium looking out at hundreds of faces. The lights were bright. The room was silent except for the soft whir of cameras. Thank you, Governor Whitaker, for this incredible honor, I began. Focus Forward started because I saw a need. I watched students struggle with systems that weren't built for how their brains work. I wanted to create something that helped instead of hindered. I paused, letting that sink in. But I want to be honest about something. I didn't build this in a supportive environment. I built it in the shadow of people who told me I couldn't. Who took credit for my work. Who made me believe my ideas only mattered when someone else claimed them. The room was completely still now. I built this alone. But not in a vacuum. I built it carrying the weight of being called a disappointment. Of being told to stay quiet. Of watching my work get stolen and being told I should feel proud it helped someone else succeed. I saw Mrs. Peterson in the 3rd row, wiping her eyes. So this award isn't just mine. It belongs to every young person told they're not good enough. Every kid whose siblings get praised for less. Every daughter who works twice as hard for half the recognition. Every student who builds something beautiful and has it taken away. The audience stood. The applause was thunderous. I saw cameras flashing, people recording on phones. And in the very back row, I saw a familiar face. Dad. He'd come. He stood there in his work suit, hands at his sides, face unreadable. He didn't clap. After the ceremony, reporters wanted interviews. I did 3 on camera, answering questions about Focus Forward, about the article, about standing up to family. What would you say to other young people facing similar situations? One reporter asked. Document everything, I said. Trust yourself. And understand that sometimes the people who should support you won't. Build anyway. When I finally made it outside, Dad was waiting by the front steps. Mia, he said. I stopped. Mrs. Peterson stayed close, protective. That was quite a speech, he said. You made your point. That wasn't about making a point. That was the truth. You humiliated your brother. Your mother is devastated. The whole family is talking. Good, I said. Maybe they should talk about why it happened instead of just that it did. You could have handled this privately. I tried that for 8 years. It didn't work. He shifted, uncomfortable. Kyle made mistakes. But family is family. We should have worked this out together. Dad, you stood at Sunday dinner and called me the family's biggest disappointment. Literally minutes before the governor called. You never once asked about my work, my business, my life. You defended Kyle every single time he stole from me. We didn't know, you didn't want to know. There's a difference. I pulled an envelope from my purse. Victoria had prepared it last week. This is a formal cease and desist. Neither you, Mom, nor Kyle can claim any involvement in Focus Forward or use my name in connection with your public statements. If any of you violate this, my lawyer will pursue legal action. I handed it to him. His hand shook slightly taking it. I'm done being the family disappointment, I said. Now I'm just done with the family. The following weeks were a blur. Focus Forward exploded. Downloads tripled. Investment offers came from multiple venture capital firms. I hired my first employees. 3 women, all in their 20s, all with stories about being overlooked or stolen from in previous jobs. My CTO was named Brianna. She'd been told by her father she should be a teacher instead of an engineer because engineering wasn't feminine enough. Your story gave me courage to apply, she told me during her interview. I saw you stand up to your family, and I thought maybe I could stand up for myself too. We built something bigger than an app. We built a company culture where credit went to creators. Where documentation was standard. Where speaking up was celebrated, not punished. Dr. Walsh introduced me to other founders with similar backgrounds. We started a private support group for women in tech dealing with family intellectual property theft. It was more common than anyone wanted to admit. I moved out of my small apartment into a modest house. Nothing fancy, but mine. I adopted a dog, a rescue named Cooper who'd been returned 3 times for being too much. We understood each other. My family went quiet. No more calls, no more texts, no more surprise visits. I heard through former neighbors that Kyle had moved back home. That he was working at a car dealership. That Mom told people I'd had a breakdown and cut off contact. I didn't correct the story. I didn't need to. The truth was public record now. Anyone who wanted to know could find it. 6 months after the awards ceremony, I was in my home office when a notification popped up. Someone had tagged me in a LinkedIn post. It was from Mr. Harrison, my old high school computer science teacher. He'd written a long post about believing in students, about a girl he'd taught years ago who'd built something beautiful despite her family dismissing her dreams. Mia Lawson showed me that talent isn't about who cheers the loudest, he wrote. It's about who works the hardest when nobody's watching. Proud doesn't begin to cover it. I sat there reading his words, remembering that quiet kid in his computer lab who just wanted someone to notice. He had noticed. And that had mattered more than I'd realized. That evening, I got a voicemail from an unknown number. I almost deleted it. But something made me listen. Mia, it's Dad. His voice sounded different. Smaller somehow. I saw your company in the news again. You're doing well. That's good. A long pause. Static on the line. I still don't understand why you needed to humiliate us. Why you couldn't just let it go. Family is supposed to forgive. Another pause. Your mother misses you. Kyle is struggling. But I guess you got what you wanted. Click. I saved the voicemail. Not because I planned to respond, but because it proved something important. Even now, even after everything, he still didn't understand. He saw my success as revenge instead of survival. He saw my truth as humiliation instead of liberation. He wanted me to let it go, to stay quiet, to protect them from consequences they'd earned. I deleted his number from my phone. Then I framed my award and hung it on my office wall. Right next to it, I hung a printed screenshot. The rejection letter MIT had sent Kyle 3 years ago, the one Dad had somehow gotten and tried to hide. I'd found it while packing to leave, saved it. The plaque beneath both frames read, "To the girl they tried to forget, who built something they couldn't ignore." My phone buzzed. Brianna, sending the monthly user stats. Focus Forward now had 75,000 active users. Students writing thank you messages. Teachers implementing it in classrooms. Parents crying in gratitude because their kids finally had a tool that worked for their brains. I thought about that Sunday dinner. About Dad's toast to Kyle. About being called a disappointment in front of everyone I'd once tried to impress. If I could go back to that moment, I wouldn't change a thing. Because that phone call hadn't saved me. I'd saved myself months before, years before, every time I chose to document instead of fight, to build instead of break, to work in silence until the work spoke for itself. The governor's call had just been the moment everyone else finally heard what I'd been saying all along. I wasn't the disappointment. I never had been. I'd just been waiting for the right audience. I'd love to hear your thoughts. What does family mean to you? Please share below and subscribe to this channel for more stories like mine.